All right, now, ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you so much, Jacob and my wife, for joining us here on Season 2, Episode 3 of Philly Comedy Club Presents the RUS GUTIN Experience here on Zoom. And this week, it's another edition of my favorite segment, Album of the Week, where I tell you about the greatest comedy albums available to you now on the interwebs, on iTunes, and such. And this week is no exception. I've been lucky enough to work with this dude a bunch of places, New York, Philly, and mostly Atlantic City, and he is absolutely amazing. You have seen him on MTV's Wild and Out, but most importantly, you have seen him on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, who happens to be one of my heroes. And tonight we are playing a clip from his amazing album, Unemotional Roller Coaster, one of the best titles of an album you will ever hear. And then he'll be joining us for an interview. Please enjoy a clip from Unemotional Roller Coaster by my buddy, Mr. Jacob Williams, ladies and gentlemen.
I have a couple of roommates here. I have multiple roommates because things are going really well for me right now. And one of my roommates, he's really into board games, and he was explaining this board game called Seven Wonders to me. It took him like 20 minutes to explain it, and I still don't know what the Seven Wonders are, but I'm no longer wondering why he doesn't have a girlfriend. So he gets mad at me a lot. I came home and the TV was on, and I sat down and started watching it. And my roommate came running out of his room. He's like, "You can't sit there because I'm sitting there." I was like, "I didn't know you were sitting here because the room was empty." That kind of threw me off. And he's like, "I was just sitting there." I'm like, "I was just standing where you're standing. And I went to Target earlier, so you can't go there anymore." But he gets mad at me about a lot of stuff. He'll be like, "Why is it wet on the sink in the bathroom?" I'm like, "Probably because it's next to the faucet." I don't know what to do about that. I guess next time I wash my hands, I won't use water. But the walls in our apartment are thin. I can hear if my roommates are fooling around with someone, and they can hear if I'm watching the movie She's Out of Your League on DVD by myself. So. My other roommate, he's this British guy that used to be a model. He came to one of my shows. He's like, "Jacob, you have so many good jokes about not getting laid." I was like, "Yeah, I'd rather just have sex." He's like, "You should go to Thailand. If you can't get laid there's something wrong with you." I was like, "Actually, that's what I'm worried about." So. He gives me a lot of dating advice. He'll be like, "All you have to do is smile." I'm like, "No, that's all you have to do." When I smile, it's really creepy. I'm just like, "Hey guys." And then everyone's like, "There, this guy looks like a serial killer. We have to get out of here." I'm not really a serial killer. That's a joke. I just want to let you guys know. I don't think I'd be good at it. That's not the only reason, but it is tough for me to get someone back to my apartment, let alone murder her. It would be a lot of new skills to learn. Someone recently got offended by that joke. I don't want to offend like if there's any serial killers here or anything. I'm sorry. But I'm trying to get better at talking to women. I used to be like, "Hello, my name's Jacob." And now I'm like, "Hello, my name's Jacob." "Where are you going?" But one time I did that joke, and after the show, this lady's like, "Oh, that was funny." I'm like, "Do you want my number?" She's like, "Actually, could I have your roommate's number?" It's not what I was going for. Sometimes if I ask someone out, I feel like her response sounds like she's saying the name of a card game. She'll be like, "Ooh, no." All right. Anyway.
Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show one of my favorite comics to work with in the entire world, as seen on MTV and Late Show with Colbert, Mr. Jacob Williams, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much.
I know, what a rousing, I know. Please, please, everyone, take your seats. Thank you.
That was the biggest response I've ever gotten.
Thank you. Well, you're welcome. They call me Russ, what a fucking shill Gutin. So, thank you. That was it's my Hebrew name. So, so Jacob, really, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you joining us on the shows. And you have a brand new album out called Unemotional Roller Coaster,
Yes.
which I would say, yes, there it is. And I love that. The Jew loves that. I love a good plug. I love a good banner in the background. It's all about product placement. And
I gotta get the
it's
word
one of
out
the
to
top
everyone
five.
in the audience.
Yeah, it's one of the top 5 like comedy album titles I've ever heard, because as you can see from that clip, it's just the most perfect title in the world. So, Jacob, what I want to ask you first is what I always ask comedians here on Album of the Week. It's something I'm always interested in, is as far as the material is concerned on the album, what would you say is the oldest bit and what is the newest bit on the album? Because I like the audience at home to know how long we cook these things for. Sometimes it's a, slow roast. Sometimes it's a quick fire. So I like to get a little insight into that.
Sure. Yeah. That's a good question. Yeah. Thank you. I'm glad you like the title, Unemotional Roller Coaster. I was gonna name it after another joke I have, and I was gonna call it Party of One, but then I realized that I found out Elaine Boozler actually has a comedy album with that title.
Oh, does she? Okay.
Yeah, and people get me and her mixed up
all the time. Honestly, it's I don't know where Elaine Boozler ends and Jacob Williams begins. It's hard to discern. Thank you.
So yeah, in terms of like the oldest and newest material, I don't know. I have some jokes on there that are pretty old. Like some of the first jokes I did were about like being an only child, which is on there, wanting to be a magician. I have a joke about like
I love that.
Velcro shoes, I think, that I wrote as a pretty early on into college when I was starting out.
Okay.
I, like hang out with friends, and I kind of improvised a joke about Velcro shoes that I ended up using in my stand-up for years, including on the album. So
that's incredible. Isn't that incredible? You can use something for years. Keep going. I love that.
Oh, sure. Yeah, no. And then, yeah, in terms of the newest stuff, I don't know. There are actually a couple of jokes I cut out that I added on like as a bonus feature on Patreon, but I think some of the other newest stuff was like maybe some of the stuff about new angles on like things from high school or tough shows I'd had and things like that. So yeah, it was just kind of
wow. So how long have you been doing stand-up for?
It's a little over 13 years now.
Wow, so some jokes could be like 12 years old and some jokes are 4 years old, you would say. So
yeah, totally. And so yeah, now I'm kind of like trying to work on the next album and stuff, but for this one, yeah, I tried to just do my favorite jokes, whether it was something from early on or more recent, but I tried to just connect them on topic, I guess.
Well, yeah, I don't think people understand, like, we're trying to put just the best stuff we can on wax, and we've got to do these things 20,000 times to get them right. Like, where do I pause, where do I breathe? So it's amazing, and your material is amazing, and that's what I wanted to get to next. What I love about watching you work, Jacob, and what I love about your style, of course, it's obviously different than mine, but is that, like, when you and I have worked together, we've worked together in New York and Philly and things like that, but when we work together in AC, what I really love about your style is that it sort of flies under the radar, because your whole presence and demeanor is so chill and so friendly, but when you actually listen to the material, you are getting away with so much shit up there. Like, you are just getting away with so much. It's actually very edgy and very, it's very suggestive, and it's awesome, and it's a very rope-a-dope style that I just love as a showrunner from the back of the room. I just love to watch it develop, and you're such a wordsmith too, so they don't notice that you're just building jokes on top of the tags and the joke. It's just so great. It's so cool. So my question for you, speaking of your history, is that something that you always had, or is that something that you sort of developed over time?
Sure. Yeah. I thank you so much. That's very nice to say. And
I mean it.
Yeah, I don't know. And yeah, it's something I definitely worked on over time. I mean, like starting out, I was really bad at comedy, and I there were so many times
I would never admit that. I'm like, you know what? I was good from the minute I started.
Yeah.
Man.
No, it was really starting out. Like I would like I was so bad at hosting. Then when I started featuring, I was like terrible at that. My first, like the first time I featured somewhere as a one-nighter, it was like in this weird little restaurant with like 2 people in the audience that I think were just there to eat at the restaurant, and I was like bombing. And
Oh yeah. Oh
at the end of the night, the
You're
restaurant
accosting
owner,
them.
yeah, I was like this. They don't want to see comedy, but I did my best, and I was
The
but
worst. Yeah.
yeah, the worst part
should
was
always be intended to be seen.
exactly. But then I don't think the owner of the restaurant understood the context of like why the show wasn't set up for so like not only did he want to not pay me, but he was actually trying to convince me to like never do comedy again. He's
No,
like,
whoa.
like, I was in his office for like an
What a
hour,
face.
and I was like, look, like I know you didn't really like my comedy, but that's kind of like the deal is to pay me the amount we agreed. And
Right.
he's like, look, he's like, there's so many other things you can do, like just do comedy, whatever. I'm like,
Have you thought about mechanics or building gaming PCs? You know, anything.
yeah, he was listing so many, and then at one point he's like, look, like you're a good-looking guy. There's so many, and I was like, wow, that's nice. That's the only person that's told me that. But
Yeah, what's the opposite of an inspirational speech in the movie? It was.
yeah, I don't know, but that was definitely it was brutal.
Wow.
But it was a lot of trial and error, just doing tough gigs like that over and over, and getting more used to handling whatever. And now I'm super happy with how the album came out, and I appreciate everything you said about it. And
It's just amazing. You're just really good. You seem really, as much as the material suggests you're uncomfortable in your skin, as a comic, I see somebody who is very comfortable, you know, as I always say, playing their shit, I think of us as musicians almost. So you're just very comfortable, doing your thing. I've seen you win over so many aggressive Atlantic City crowds with your chill demeanor. You know me, I'm a steamroll those motherfuckers because I know what I'm dealing with, but to see you do it is just absolutely a treat, and I'm always enamored. And what I wanted to ask you about, speaking of your album, another thing I love about your material is I think what also flies under the radar is that it's actually kind of revealing. And you talk about going to therapy very openly, but you do mine it for comedy gold. You had that awesome animated clip that people can see on, I believe, your stories and stuff like that on your social media that I really loved. And so my question to you is also about, like, was that, material-wise, were you always that open on stage, or is that something you became more comfortable with as you became more comfortable as a comedian?
Oh, thanks again. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I do try to be myself on stage and try to be honest and vulnerable. Sometimes people will like think that I'm doing a weird character, and then they talk to me off the stage, and they're like, "Oh, you're still in character." Just how I talk to them. I try to be myself.
Wow, I didn't think about, for me, the times that I have brought up therapy in my act or things of that nature, what I notice is after the show, people then want to share their therapy experiences and information with me, and it's like, no, I'm not qualified for that. Now, Jacob, my wife has a master's in clinical psychology.
Oh, awesome.
Which explains A, why she's willing to, deal with this. But B, like, you have to have a very specific temperament, because I can't even take on somebody's personal information. Like, I'm like an emotional lightning rod. Like, you're an unemotional roller coaster. Like, I feel everything. So I was like, I can't bring this up anymore because people want to share with me too much.
Yeah.
I love that they think you're playing a character.
Yeah, I don't know if that people still think that, but yeah, that's just how it was. And so, and starting out, like you said, I definitely didn't have that for a long time, because I think I was kind of nervous about talking about some things on stage. Like, I would do a lot of shows starting out where I'd go to my hometown, and it would be like my parents and then my grandparents would all be in the audience, things like that. So I didn't really talk about sex for a long time or things like that until later.
Okay. Where are you originally from? I don't know if I've ever asked you that. I've heard it in your material, but
in Louisville, Kentucky originally.
Oh, Kentucky, that's great. Dara, Laura Bell country. That's great. So I'm a big fan of. I have a lot of friends from school and in life and in the arts who are from Kentucky. So don't let Mitch McConnell dictate your opinion about Kentucky.
Yeah, there's a lot of good people there.
No, there are. That's what I'm saying. A lot of
Yeah,
great
exactly.
like musicians and actors and now comedians. I don't know if I realized. I knew you weren't from New Jersey. You know, like I knew you weren't from where I'm from. Like that's always pretty obvious. So, okay. So actually, Jacob, speaking of being comedians together and working together, I have been in lockdown, but you are one of those lucky comedians, in my opinion, to be experiencing this in real time on the ground. And you've been one of those comics who have been doing comedy by any means necessary, so to speak. You've done virtual shows and outdoor shows, and you were already on the college circuit, so I know you were doing some of those virtual shows and things like that too, because you are just, you're just like a great, you're just a great presence on any show. But my question for you is somebody who's been doing it for 21 years but hasn't experienced this new world of comedy. It's a two-part question. What would you say has been your best outdoor or virtual experience, and what has been your worst outdoor or virtual experience so far in the new world?
Okay, yeah, that's a great question. And I'd say the best experience I've had, I'd have to probably go with, actually when I did the album release show, I did it at New York Comedy Club's
The Penthouse
location. Yeah, which was so fun. And it was a super fun show already, but then what happened that night was it was a couple of days before Chris Rock was hosting SNL, so he dropped in.
Oh wow! Yeah, no, I saw. I mean, it was definitely. Yeah. Oh.
So that was really exciting. I had never seen him live. He was there with Michael Che, and he was working on his SNL monologue. And I've always been a huge fan of Chris Rock, so just to get to watch him work on the set and like try out something not necessarily.
Jacob, what a blessing though. What a gift that even if it's a socially distanced small audience, like someone like that when I mean, I don't think you can like comedy or breathing air and not like Chris Rock. That is I when I lived in LA, it was cool sometimes to see Chris Rock at the Laugh Factory and Kevin Hart work those things out. But wow, I mean, that was, I don't know, that was like more like what happened to you in this time in a penthouse. That's unbelievable. I just can't believe it.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. And then I was definitely worried about having to follow him, but I think the crowd was in such a good mood.
You hadn't already gone on? I figured he showed up after you.
No, it was actually right before I went on to do the headline my album release show. And so I went on right after, and the crowd was so happy that I think was of seeing him that they were just in such a good mood. I ended up having.
No, you could have taken a shit. You know, like you could have defecated on stage. You were. What audience wouldn't like Chris Rock as the opener? What the fuck? And it didn't cost you a dime, Jacob. You didn't have to pay Chris Rock. So
no, I paid the other openers, and I couldn't find Chris Rock's memo, so I'm like, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, no. I'm gonna try to get that information for you, stat, and I'm sure I will be told a solid and hard no, and they will probably block my number. No, Jacob, that is really fucking cool, and that is such a blessing. Also for your album. So I just think that is really cool. And I love that you have all that extra stuff. Just by the way, if you get the album and the Patreon and all that stuff, is it Patreon or Patreon? I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, I think on Patreon, there's I'm doing like a $5 a month thing where you can get the full video version of the album, like a comedy special version, and then material I cut out and other bonus videos.
Yeah, so make sure you get that, because I know that your album release party, I heard about the Chris Rock thing after. Thank you for giving me that gift. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I heard about that after, but I knew that you were doing all that extra stuff. So again, make sure you follow Mr. Jacob Williams on all of his social media. So, Jacob, we're down to the last question of the night, and thank you so much for joining us on season.
I didn't even talk about the worst show.
Oh, no. Oh, shit. Hold on. Ready? So yeah. So Jacob, what has been the worst experience you've had?
Oh man. So yeah, like sometimes I'll do a park show or something and like I think it's going well and then I realize the laughter I heard is just like people having fun on a picnic or something like that. Um, but in general, I've done a few of these like Zoom shows where like everyone's muted. I'm just saying jokes with no response. It's kind of like the first 2 years I did comedy.
Yeah. Or
It-
this. Yeah. No, I understand.
I
We
think
usually have. Hey, we've had upwards of 5 people in the gallery, so I'll have you know.
I think
Yeah. You know, every week's a crapshoot. But
but like the worst show I did online at the end of my set, I was like, this was so weird because you guys were muted. This guy's like, actually, we weren't muted.
oh,
I'm
Jesus Christ.
but no, there was one other really weird one. I was
Why
kind
are
of
so people so mean to you, Jacob? You're so nice. Why
Well,
is
the worst-
everybody so mean to you?
this is the worst one because this person I really don't think was trying to be mean, but I was doing a show. I think someone accidentally unmuted, and I just heard them like I was telling jokes to the people. The rest of the audience was listening, and this guy was like watching. I guess his video was off. His friend's like, "What are you watching?" He's like, "Oh, it's the corny white guy from Wild and Out." And his friend's like, "Oh, is it funny?" He's like, "It's kind of funny, I guess." And I had to be like, "Hey, the corny white guy from Wild and Out can hear you right now." So
Yeah, right now. Here
it
I
was
am.
so weird. Yeah, I felt like I was like hearing like a YouTube comment live or something.
Oh.
I'm standing right here, assholes. Oh, Jacob, that's very, very good, and thank you for keeping me on track. Also, you know, because I didn't know.
That's why I got this.
Yeah, that's right. That's why you get paid the big bucks. That's right. Hey, you're getting paid the big bucks tonight. That's right. It's a big money gig here on Zoom for me and my wife. So,
I was told I'm getting paid $20,000 for this. I hope.
that's right. No. Yeah, I Venmo'd you. What I did was I Venmo'd you the first payment of $5, and it'll be every 6 months for the next 78 and a half years. I'm not good at math, Jacob.
Sounds
So,
good.
yeah, I think it'll still fall short. It feels like a shortfall. So Jacob, my last question for you tonight, and thank you so much for joining us on season 2, episode 3 of Philly Comedy Club presents the RUS Gutin Experience here on Zoom. And I'm really excited to ask you about this. Is that not too long ago in the old world, in the before times, you were featured for a late night stand-up set on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, who happens to be one of my personal heroes in life. I have I Am America and So Can You right there on my bookshelf. He is he is bigger than life to me. And it was so cool knowing you the little bit that I did, to see you on there and to see you just absolutely crush it. You know, like you were just so great and really made for The Late Show. Like you really carried the torch of the kind of comics that I grew up seeing on Letterman and now seeing on Colbert. You were just perfectly placed amongst that pantheon of comics that I have grown up seeing on that show. And I mean that a lot. So I'm very interested to ask you these questions, which is, I want you to take me a little bit behind the curtain and tell me a little bit what the process was like to book the gig, but also tell me a little bit what the day of the taping and the show was like. For example, if you made eye contact with Mr. Colbert, did he have security tase you within an inch of your life? These are the things I want to know. Spill the tea, Jacob. Spill that tea.
Well, I just spilled the tea out of this.
Yes, no. You're stunting on me now. Is that a flex? Is that a flex?
I don't know. That's yeah. No, it was. Thank you for asking that. It was such a great experience. I mean, I think in terms of when it first came about, I think it first kind of started like way before that. Maybe a year or more or so before. I was actually like in a comedy club. I went to see. I had opened up for Louis Anderson. I did like this comedy class he did once, and then ended up opening for him a few times.
He used to at the Comedy Store. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he's a great guy. He's amazing on the show Baskets. If people haven't seen it, I think
Oh
he won
yeah,
for
absolutely,
that.
absolutely. I used to go on right after the Louis Anderson comedy class show in the original one.
Okay, great. Yeah, so he's awesome, a legendary comedian. But yeah, I went to like say hi to him because he was doing Caroline's, and he's like, "Oh, do you want to do a set?" And I was like, "Sure." And basically, I think Emma Willman was on the show, and she like introduced me to a friend that was with her.
Oh, okay, yeah, Emma. Okay, great, yeah.
And yeah, I just did a guest set. I think it went well. And then afterwards, her friend was like, "Hey, by the way, I like booked Colbert, so here's my card. You should send me a tape." And I was like, "Wow, that's awesome." So I think I ended up sending a tape, and it was like kind of a long process, but eventually,
Wow.
after I'd kind of in my head given up, I was like, "Oh, maybe they just weren't." At one point, they were like, "Oh, we actually really like." I think they just had a long processing thing or whatever. They were like, "We really like the tape, so we'd like to have you on." And it was pretty similar to what I turned in. And so,
Wow, but almost a year before, and it took a series of happy accidents, that,
yeah,
luck is when opportunity meets preparation, as Robert Evans always said. So I love that. I love that story. And Emma was great on her set on that show
great.
too.
Yeah, so funny. And so I think what I did is she was actually doing warm up and stuff, and she like really made the crowd awesome. And when I did it, I think yeah, it was so cool to be like you mentioned. Like I grew up watching all those people on Letterman, and so it was cool to be in that theater for sure. And
Is it really 32 degrees in there? I know Letterman used to keep it very cold in there.
I think it might have been. I was like so nervous, I probably couldn't tell what the actual temperature was. But yeah, it was a really really fun experience for sure. Yeah.
No, that is excellent. And I really, really appreciate you giving me a little bit of insight into that, because I know some people have gone through it where it's like it happened and 2 weeks later somebody canceled. So they were up, and their mom had to like drive in and take them to the store and get them a suit, So the fact that you went through such a long process just speaks again, in my opinion, to one of the reasons that I just love you as a comic on stage, but really, really enjoy working with you. You are dedicated to the craft, you work hard, and you don't fucking give up. And that's what I love about that. I mean, I don't know if I could have gone through a year process like that. Like, and the fact that you were like, oh, maybe they, I just love that story. And I think that it's a real gift that you gave us all these great stories tonight with so many great guest stars. Jacob, who knew there were going to be Chris Rock and Stephen Colbert and Louis Anderson and Elaine Boozler? I mean, my God, a cavalcade of fucking stars. I can't wait to do the YouTube tags for this. They're going to be really surprised to see it here too. But Jacob, I can't thank you enough for joining us on Season 2, Episode 3 of Philly Comedy Club Presents the RUS Gutin Experience here on Zoom. And you at home can now get Jacob's album, Unemotional Roller Coaster, which is put out by 800 Pound Gorilla Records, which has all kinds of amazing comedy records on their label right now. But Jacob's album, Unemotional Roller Coaster, is available now on iTunes. And definitely sign up to his Patreon, or however you want to say it, and you get the full special and all that extra content that Jacob is so gracious to put out in the world. My friend, I hope in the new world, you and I get to kick ass in Atlantic City and Philly and New York again.
Absolutely.
Once more. Thank you for joining us, Jacob. I really appreciate it.
This was so much fun. Thanks for having me. It's always great talking to you, great working with you. So thanks for having me.
You're the man, Jacob. Thank you again. Give it up for Jacob Williams, ladies and gentlemen.